Alex stood at the airport gate, gripping his suitcase tightly. The loud announcements and chatter around him blended into one confusing stream of English words he barely understood. Alex had just arrived in New York City from his small hometown in Brazil. His dream was to study at a university in the United States, but first he needed to master English. Next! The customs officer's sharp voice startled him. Alex hesitated for a second before stepping forward. "Hello?" he said, his accent thick but clear. "Passport, please," the officer said without looking up. Alex fumbled in his pocket and handed it over. He watched the officer stamp his passport, signaling his entry into a new chapter of life. "Welcome to the United States," the officer said flatly, handing the passport back. Alex smiled politely and walked into the terminal, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. The first few days in New York were overwhelming. Alex had enrolled in an intensive English program at a language school downtown, but every class felt like a blur of unfamiliar words. In his first lesson, the teacher, Mrs. Taylor, asked the class to introduce themselves. "My name is Sarah. I am from Korea. I am Luca. I come from Italy." When it was Alex's turn, his palms began to sweat. I am Alex. I am from Brazil," he managed to say. "Welcome, Alex." Mrs. Taylor smiled warmly. "It's great to have you here." Alex felt a little better. But as the class continued, he struggled to follow along. Phrases like phrasal verbs, past tense, and subject-verb agreement left him confused. Later that evening, Alex went to a nearby cafe to practice reading. He ordered a coffee and opened his English textbook. "Can I sit here?" a voice asked. Alex looked up and saw a young man about his age. "Yes, please," Alex replied. David," the man said, extending his hand. "I am Alex," he said, shaking David's hand. "Where are you from, Alex?" "Brazil," Alex answered. "Cool. How long have you been here?" 1 week." Alex searched for the right words, but his mind went blank. David smiled. "Don't worry. I know learning English is hard. I moved from Spain 2 years ago. It gets easier." Alex felt relieved. Maybe he wasn't alone in this struggle. The next day, Alex tried to order lunch at a sandwich shop. "Can I get a chicken sandwich and—" Alex paused, forgetting the word for lettuce. "And what?" the cashier asked, looking impatient. Alex pointed at the menu. "This green thing," the cashier laughed. "Lettuce?" "Yes, lettuce." Alex laughed nervously. He knew the word, but had forgotten it in the moment. As he sat down to eat, he promised himself to study harder. A week later, during class, Mrs. Taylor asked Alex to read a short paragraph aloud. His heart pounded as he began. "The boy walks to school every day." He paused, unsure of the next word. "It's okay. Take your time," Mrs. Taylor encouraged. Alex took a deep breath and continued. By the end of the paragraph, the class clapped. "You did great, Alex," Mrs. Taylor said. For the first time, Alex felt a small spark of confidence. A month had passed since Alex arrived in New York. His listening skills were improving, but speaking still felt like climbing a mountain. Words sat on the tip of his tongue, but they refused to come out. One afternoon, David invited Alex to a language exchange event at a local bookstore. "It's a great way to practice," David explained. "People speak English, and you can teach them a bit of Portuguese, too." Alex hesitated. I don't know if I am ready." "You are ready," David said confidently. Reluctantly, Alex agreed. The bookstore was buzzing with conversation when they arrived. Groups of people sat in small circles, chatting and laughing. David introduced Alex to a few friends. "This is Maria. She's from Colombia. And this is Sam. He's from Canada." "Hi, Alex," Maria said. Alex smiled nervously. "Hello, nice to meet you." As they spoke, Alex's anxiety began to fade. David's encouragement helped, and by the end of the evening, Alex had spoken more English than he had in the entire past week. The next day in class, Mrs. Taylor gave them a speaking assignment. Each student had to give a short presentation on their home country. Alex prepared carefully, But as he stood at the front of the class, his nerves returned. In Brazil, we have beautiful beaches and good food, he began. He stumbled over a few sentences, and halfway through, he accidentally said, Brazilians eat music at festivals. The class laughed. Alex's face turned red, but Mrs. Taylor smiled kindly. You mean they listen to music at festivals? She said gently. Alex nodded, laughing at himself. Yes! Listen to music. That's part of learning, Mrs. Taylor said. Mistakes help us improve. Alex sat down, feeling embarrassed, but also more determined to keep going. Later that week, Alex decided to join a soccer club at a nearby park. Soccer was his passion, and he hoped it would help him meet more people. At the park, a group of players welcomed him. They were from different countries: Mexico, Japan, France, and the US. As the game started, Alex felt at ease. On the field, language didn't matter. But during breaks, the players chatted, and Alex pushed himself to join in. Nice pass, one player said. Thank you, Alex replied. After the game, they invited him to grab food. As they ate, Alex listened carefully, picking up new words and phrases. One evening, Alex sat in his apartment, reflecting on his progress. He still struggled, but now he could understand more of his classmates' conversations. He even managed to hold longer chats with David. To celebrate, he called his mother in Brazil. Oi, mãe! How are you? Alex asked in Portuguese. I'm good, filho. How is your English? Alex smiled. Better. I can speak more now. I'm learning every day. His mother's pride was clear in her voice. I knew you could do it. The next week, Mrs. Taylor announced a debate activity in class. Alex's heart sank. Speaking in front of people was still his biggest fear. I will pair you up, Mrs. Taylor said. Alex was partnered with Luca from Italy. Their topic was simple: should students have longer holidays? As they prepared, Luca encouraged Alex. We'll do great, just focus on simple sentences. On the day of the debate, Alex's hands shook as he spoke. But he remembered Luca's advice. Yes, I think students need longer holidays because they work hard, Alex said. By the end, Mrs. Taylor smiled. Excellent effort, Alex. You're improving every day. Alex felt proud. Maybe fluency wasn't so far away after all. As the weeks passed, Alex began to notice small but important changes. Ordering food, asking for directions, and chatting with classmates felt easier. One afternoon, Alex and David decided to visit Central Park. As they walked, David pointed at a street performer playing the guitar. Look at that guy. He's really good, David said. Alex nodded. Yes, he plays. Very well. Plays really well, David corrected gently. Alex laughed. Yes, plays really well. Moments like this were becoming normal, quick corrections that helped Alex improve naturally. As they sat by the lake, David asked, What's been the hardest part of learning English for you? Alex thought for a moment. Speaking, and not being afraid of mistakes. David smiled. You're doing great. Just keep talking, even if you mess up. Alex realized David was right. The more he spoke, the better he felt. One day, Mrs. Taylor made an exciting announcement in class. The school is organizing a talent show next month. If you want to perform, sing, dance, or even do a presentation, sign up. Alex's classmates buzzed with excitement. Sarah from Korea planned to sing, and Luca wanted to perform a comedy skit. David nudged Alex. You should join too. Alex hesitated. I don't know. What would I do? You could talk about Brazil, the culture, the food, the festivals. Alex wasn't sure, but something about the idea excited him. Maybe this was the challenge he needed to push his English even further. That evening, Alex began writing a short speech about Brazil. He wrote about carnival, soccer, and the Amazon rainforest. The next day, he showed his draft to Mrs. Taylor. This is great, Alex, she said after reading it. Let's work on making it sound natural. Together, they simplified some phrases and practiced pronunciation. Mrs. Taylor also taught Alex how to pause, make eye contact, and speak confidently. Over the next few weeks, Alex practiced every day, Even in front of his mirror, the night of the talent show arrived faster than Alex expected. As he stood backstage, his heart pounded. David noticed his nervousness. "You've got this, Alex. Just imagine you're talking to me." When Alex's name was called, he walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, and the room felt huge. He took a deep breath and began. "Hello, everyone. My name is Alex, and I am from Brazil." His voice shook at first, but as he spoke about carnival and soccer, he saw people smiling and nodding. By the time he finished, the audience clapped loudly. Alex felt a wave of relief and pride. After the show, Mrs. Taylor approached Alex. "I'm so proud of you, Alex. You've come so far." David patted him on the back. "I told you, you're practically fluent now." Alex laughed. "Not yet, but I feel closer." From that night on, something shifted. Alex spoke more freely in class, joined conversations without fear, and even helped new students who were struggling. He realized that fluency wasn't just about perfect grammar. It was about confidence, connection, and persistence. One conversation at a time, Alex was unlocking English. Months passed, and Alex felt more at home in New York City. His English was getting better, but he knew that there was still so much to learn. He had made great progress, but fluency wasn't just about understanding words. It was about being able to express himself in any situation. One day, as he walked down the street, Alex overheard a group of people discussing a new movie. He couldn't help but join in. "I saw that movie last weekend," one of them said. "It was amazing." "I have heard it's good," Alex said, hesitating for a moment. He was nervous but pushed forward. "What did you like about it?" The group smiled at him. "The plot was great, and the actors were fantastic," the woman replied. "Sounds interesting," Alex said, feeling proud of himself for jumping into a conversation with strangers. That night, he reflected on the small victories. It wasn't just about studying, it was about being brave enough to use English, no matter where he was. One morning, Alex arrived at class to find Luca looking stressed. "Hey, what's wrong?" Alex asked, sitting down beside him. Luca sighed. "I have a presentation in English next week, and I am not ready. I just can't get my ideas out in English the way I want." Alex smiled. "I've been there. Want some help?" Luca looked at him, surprised. "You'd help me." "Of course," Alex said. "We can practice together. Maybe you can tell me about your country, and I'll help you with some English expressions." Luca smiled. "That would be great, thanks." Over the next few days, Alex and Luca met after class to work on the presentation. Alex helped Luca with sentence structure, pronunciation, and phrasing. Luca's confidence grew, and when it was his turn to present, he spoke clearly and with passion. "Thanks, Alex." "I couldn't have done it without you," Luca said, giving him a high five. Alex felt a sense of pride. Helping others was just another way to keep improving. By the end of the semester, Alex felt that he was ready for the next big challenge, the English proficiency exam. This test would determine whether he could continue his studies at the university. "I am nervous," Alex admitted to David one evening. "What if I fail?" David smiled and patted his friend on the back. "You have come so far. You're ready." But Alex wasn't sure. He knew that the test would include listening, speaking, reading, and writing areas he had worked hard to improve, but areas that still made him anxious. The night before the exam, Alex spent hours reviewing notes, listening to podcasts, and practicing writing essays. As he closed his notebook, he realized how much he had grown. "I am ready," Alex told himself, smiling in the mirror. The day of the exam arrived. Alex woke up early, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. He had worked hard, but now it was time to see if all of his efforts would pay off. When he entered the test center, Alex felt the weight of the room. Everyone was serious, their eyes focused on the papers in front of them. He sat down at his desk, took a deep breath, and began. The listening section was challenging, but Alex understood more than he expected. During the speaking part, he focused on staying calm, remembering the advice David had given him. Just speak naturally. It's okay to make mistakes. The reading and writing sections felt easier, And by the end of the test, Alex was exhausted but proud of himself. Weeks passed, and Alex couldn't stop thinking about the exam results. He kept practicing his English, but the uncertainty lingered. One afternoon, he received an email from the language school. He opened it, his hands shaking. "Dear Alex, we are pleased to inform you that you have passed the English proficiency exam. Congratulations!" Alex read the email again to make sure he wasn't dreaming. "I did it!" he shouted, jumping up from his chair. His heart raced with excitement. He had worked so hard, and now it had all paid off. With the exam behind him, Alex focused on his next step: university. He had received an acceptance letter from a prestigious school in the city, and now he was ready to take on new academic challenges. But before he started his studies, he had one last goal to accomplish. David invited him to join a community event at the school, where students shared their personal stories. Alex thought it would be the perfect opportunity to reflect on his own journey. He stood in front of the audience, his heart beating fast. "My name is Alex, and I want to tell you about my experience learning English." As he spoke, Alex shared his struggles, his small victories, and his growth. He spoke about the fear he had felt when he first arrived in New York and the confidence he had gained over time. The audience was silent, listening to him. When he finished, they clapped, and Alex felt something he had never felt before: pride in himself. "I've come a long way," Alex said, smiling. "And the journey is just beginning." Years later, Alex would look back on his time in New York and remember how it all began: the nervousness, the struggles, the mistakes. But he would also remember the joy of overcoming them. By that time, Alex had become fluent in English. He had earned his degree, made new friends from around the world, and achieved everything he had set out to do. And whenever someone asked him for advice on learning English, he would always say the same thing: "It's not about being perfect. It's about believing in yourself and never giving up." This final part of Alex's journey highlights his ongoing growth and confidence, showing that language mastery comes through persistence, courage, and a positive mindset. I hope this continues to inspire English learners everywhere.